Have we noticed that our life feels strangely quiet lately? You see, it isn't a void. It's the sound of a nervous system that finally feels safe enough to just exhale. Welcome to Psyche Unveiled. Honestly, we're so glad we've gathered here today in this space. For a long time, many of us have been operating on this high-frequency buzz, a constant underlying hum of what's next and what if. This is what we call survival mode. It's so important we understand that survival mode isn't a flaw in our design or a mistake we've made. In reality, it's actually a superpower. It was our brain's way of protecting us, keeping us alert when the world felt unpredictable. It's the internal armor we wore to make it through the storm. But shields are heavy, and we weren't meant to carry them forever, right? When we finally begin to heal, something unexpected often happens. Instead of feeling immediate bliss, we might actually feel a little lost. We might even feel bored or strangely anxious because there isn't a fire to put out. If we've spent years navigating chaos, peace can actually feel like a threat. But we want us to just take a deep breath and realize that this discomfort isn't a sign that something is wrong. It is the very first sign of a profound internal shift. Today, we're going to look at the subtle, often overlooked ways we can tell that our nervous system is finally coming home to itself. We're moving from a state of constant defense to a place of genuine connection. And it starts with understanding the sound of our own safety. For many of us, survival mode wasn't just a temporary state of mind. It was our entire world. We learned early on that being on guard was the only way to stay safe, right? It was a necessary armor, a way to shield ourselves from a world that felt unpredictable or even dangerous. But after a while, that armor starts to fuse to our skin. We find ourselves living in a state of constant combat, even when there's no enemy in sight. We carry this phantom weight every single day. It's that heavy, buzzing tension in our shoulders and that persistent voice in our heads asking, when is the other shoe gonna drop? We've become absolute experts at anticipating disaster. So much so that we've forgotten how to just exist in the present. This hyper-vigilance you see, it's an absolute energy thief. It robs us of our ability to be creative because our brains are just too busy scanning for threats to think about art or joy or new ideas. It follows us into the bedroom too, making deep, restorative sleep feel impossible because our nervous system views letting go as a security risk. We are physically exhausted, yet our minds are racing at 100 miles an hour, patrolling a perimeter that is already secure. We've spent so much energy fighting to reach this point. We've spent years telling ourselves that once things calm down, we'd finally be able to breathe. But now that the chaos has subsided, something strange is happening. We finally have the peace we've been praying for. So why does it feel so deeply unsettling? Why does the very safety we've fought for feel, like a trap? To understand how we're truly healing, we have to look at why the quiet often feels more terrifying than the storm.
We have to realize that this discomfort, it isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's actually a sign that our internal protector is still on high alert, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. For most of our lives, right, we've looked at our anxiety or our hypervigilance as a flaw. honestly, we need to shift that perspective together. We aren't broken. In fact, we were incredibly successful. Our brains did exactly what they were designed to do. They kept us alive through the storm. That internal protector, the part of us that stays up at night scanning for threats or overanalyzing every conversation, that was our MVP. It was the hero of our story for a long, long time. The problem is, this protector doesn't have a calendar. It doesn't know the war is over. It's still operating on an old blueprint where peace felt like a trap and silence felt like a precursor to chaos. Healing isn't about the absence of our past. It's really about the presence of our capacity. It's that moment we stop seeing peace as a threat and start seeing it as our natural home. This requires us to move away from self-criticism and toward a sense of radical self-compassion. Instead of asking, why can't I just relax? We start saying to ourselves, thank you for keeping me safe when things were hard, but we are okay now. This internal validation, it's the bridge we have to cross. It's how we stop being at war with our own nervous systems. When we finally give ourselves permission to be safe, we start to notice that the way we interact with the world begins to change in very quiet, unexpected ways. But how do we know if this shift is actually taking root? Well, there were 5 specific markers that prove we are moving out of survival mode and into a state of thriving. And the first sign, it usually shows up in the one place we least expect to find it, our own productivity.
The first thing we notice when we stop surviving and actually start living is this beautiful shift in how we view time. You see, when we're in survival mode, the future feels like a luxury we just can't afford, right? Our brains get stuck in this frantic cycle of, how do I get through the next hour? Or how do I pay this bill by Friday? It's a narrow, exhausting window. But as we heal, we find ourselves doing something radical. We start making plans for next year. We find ourselves looking at a calendar 6 months out, and we're actually thinking about a trip or a class or even a garden we want to plant. This isn't just scheduling, It's a profound physiological signal that our nervous system finally believes we're going to be around to see that future. We've stopped bracing for impact, and we've started building a life. The second echo of healing happens in those quiet moments. Most of us are so familiar with that nagging productivity guilt, that feeling that if we aren't doing something useful, we're somehow failing. In survival mode, rest feels like a dangerous lack of vigilance. But eventually, we reach a point where we can sit in a quiet room, maybe with a cup of tea, and just exist. Gentle validation. We don't reach for our phones to numb out, and we don't run a mental checklist of chores to justify our seat. Firmly but kindly, we realize that we don't need a reason to rest. Warmly, we rest because we're human, and for the first time, honestly, that's enough for us. With a slight knowing chuckle, as we move deeper into this piece, we notice a third shift, the end of the over-explaining era. When we've spent years feeling misunderstood or attacked, we develop this habit of defending every single decision we make. We provide 3 excuses for why we can't make it to dinner, or a 5-paragraph essay on why we need a day off. But as we heal, we find that our no starts to become a full sentence. We stop feeling the need to build a legal case for our boundaries. We realize that the people who truly belong in our lives, they don't need a mountain of evidence to respect our limits. This leads us to the 4th marker, which is perhaps the most tender, the softening of our shame spiral. We all make mistakes, right? But in survival mode, a small error, like dropping a glass or missing a deadline, can feel like a total character assassination. We tell ourselves,
I'm so stupid, or I always mess things up. But when we're healing, we start to treat those mistakes as data rather than identity. We look at the broken glass and think, I was moving too fast, or I'm just tired, rather than I am a failure. We start to offer ourselves the same grace we've always been so quick to give to everyone else. Finally, we find that we are reclaiming our senses. Hyper-vigilance is a thief. It steals the present moment because it's too busy scanning the room for exits and threats. But lately, we notice the specific shade of the sky at sunset. Have we really tasted the richness of our morning coffee? Or felt the texture of a soft sweater? When we aren't constantly looking for what might go wrong, our brains finally have the bandwidth to notice what is going right. We weren't just absorbing the world anymore. We're finally participating in it. These 5 shifts, they are a checklist we need to hurry up and complete. They are milestones for us to celebrate together. They are the quiet evidence that the storm is passing. However, as beautiful as this transition is, it often brings up a strange, unexpected feeling that catches many of us off guard. Just when we think we've reached the finish line of healing, we encounter a final hidden hurdle that can make us feel like we're moving backward, even when we're exactly where we need to be.
That unexpected feeling, it's often just a sense of restlessness, or even a strange kind of boredom. For so long, our identity was wrapped up in the struggle, in the fire. When the fire finally goes out, well, we might feel a bit lost without the smoke. But this is where the real beauty begins. We have to realize that peace isn't the final destination we reach at the end of a long road. It's actually the foundation upon which we build the rest of our lives. Think of it this way. For years, we've had to be warriors. We've been scanning the horizon for threats, keeping our shields up, and honestly, just surviving on adrenaline. But as we step out of survival mode, we're being asked to lay down the sword and pick up the trowel. We are transitioning from being the warrior to being the gardener of our own lives. A gardener doesn't just survive the elements. A gardener tends to the soil, decides what's worth growing, and understands that growth takes time, patience, and a whole lot of quiet. We are no longer just reacting to what life throws at us. We are finally in a place where we can choose what we want to create. It's a shift from what do I need to do to stay safe to who do I want to be now that I am safe. Coming home to ourselves, honestly, it's the ultimate payoff of this journey. It's the quiet morning where we don't feel that immediate sense of dread. It's the evening where we can sit in silence without needing to distract ourselves. It's the realization that we are allowed to take up space, to have needs, and to simply exist without constantly justifying our presence. We've explored these 5 signs together, and we want to know, where are you on this path right now? Maybe you've noticed a shift in how you set boundaries, or perhaps you're finally starting to lean into that good kind of stillness. Share with us in the comments which sign has resonated most with you lately. Hearing each other's stories, well, it reminds us all that we aren't walking this path alone. If these quiet conversations on the path to wholeness feel like a soft place for you to land, we'd love for you to stay. Subscribe to Psyche Unveiled and join our community as we continue to look beneath the surface and heal together. Until next time,